Hello. Hi,
Well,
everyone.
hello. Greetings and salutations. Got to make the welcome warm.
I know, yeah. No,
It's
it's
the
so great
holiday
to be on with
season.
all three of us, right?
Oh, and then Bill was saying the holiday season.
Yeah, we need to start decorating the back of our screens here so we a little more festive.
Put a turkey up and stuff. Gobble
Yeah,
gobble in the background. Float. We should float gobble gobble on the little ticker on the bottom. So
yeah,
Well, I
yellow
mean, don't you
turkey.
isn't that Green Bay thing there for you is intentional?
Yeah, it's
That's
for
meant to
the
be your background.
yeah, it's just it's where the main office is. So
Uh-huh.
um,
yeah, because I hope you're not a fan. Well, last week they got lucky, so you can still root for them if that's secretly what you do, Bill. You don't have to tell us that it's.
I root for anybody except the Dolphins or whoever plays against the Jets. I don't root for them, but other than that, we're good.
Oh, you alienated a lot of Floridians there.
Yeah, like everyone just left our show
That's
just now.
the half that are native from Miami and the other half that are immigrants from, the snowbirds.
I just watched our followings dropped. Like, I'm just
I don't
we
know
lost.
about
Yeah.
that. All the New Yorkers here, yeah, I think the following went up.
I'm gonna get my where's my dolphin sweater?
Oh,
Just kidding.
okay, guys. So let's get on with the show. So we've decided on a new format, right? So this week we're gonna go live, and we're gonna be live every Wednesdays, and the show will be on a recording, but we will monitor the chat live. I mean, it'll be streamed live, but we will be monitoring the chat. So
Mhm.
that would be what's going on for now, so that we can be coming to you with like various different topics and have more coverage. We realize like 1 hour is really not enough to talk about all the things that are going on here because there's a lot. So with that said, so what do we want to share with the people of South Florida today?
Well, man, there's so much going on. There's
I
one
know.
week out of the election, and there's already so much action. I know in Broward County, the big thing there is the school board. Obviously,
Uh-huh.
on a national level, there's this spotlight on Florida because of Donald Trump's announcement, and now all of a sudden we got to pick sides. So there's so much going on. Like a week after the election, like we just ended it. Like Ron DeSantis says, can we just like chill out?
I know, right?
Yeah.
let's
So
do some work they were elected for first, right?
yeah,
I
exactly.
mean,
Like
like it seems like a never-ending election cycle. Like it's always
this is the
about the
campaign
election.
that never ends. You guys remember that song? I don't know if you watched it. It goes on and
Seriously. I mean, it just keeps going on and on. It's all about elections, and like we don't get stuff done anymore. It seems.
well, I mean, I don't know how much you know about this, Lynn, since you're down south, further south in Miami. But did you hear anything about the Broward County schools ousting of their superintendent? Matter of fact, there was another superintendent state somewhere nationally that got ousted too. So I guess superintendents are on the way out this week.
No, seriously, but they should. I mean, if superintendents want to, do as much and earn as much as they do, they should be elected, right? Because right now, like, there's scapegoats for school board members to actually just pass on the dirt, kind of like OSHA, mandating vaccines. You know what I mean? Like that. It's
Right.
it's like they're bureaucrats that are being used by the elected officials to be their scapegoat, and then at the end of the day, they get ousted. I mean, it doesn't even matter how good they are. And if they are really crappy, then I mean, is it because of the school board members that have been asking them to do, to carry out these crazy missions? I don't
Yeah.
know. I mean, like,
Yeah,
I
I
don't
don't, I
know.
don't I don't know much about what happened with Vicky. I mean, I've seen it in the Florida Jolt. Do you know, Mo, since you were following?
Well, I mean, what happened was there were so much things that were happening in this county system that she apparently did not address immediately or in the manner of which the community wanted.
Mhm.
And it just kind of continued. There was so much corrupt. Again, there's been I'll never forget the one interview I did with the Sun Sentinel. I was like, they asked the question, like, do you think there's corruption in the Broward County school system? And I'm like, the fact that you bring up, grand jury decision and superintendent being arrested, like, these are things that shouldn't be happening in your school system. So there was a lot of things that even after removing the last superintendent that still were continuing on the board as well as administratively in the school district. So that's the head of the snake there. So she's supposed to come in, identify these things, and rectify it right away. So one of the things that the board addressed when the Governor DeSantis appointed the new members was some other things that she should have paid attention to, stemming from the grand jury's research and investigation or whatever. And she was like, oh, okay, now that this is being addressed, I'll go ahead and fire these people or encourage them to resign or whatever. But this is something you should have done when you first got the job. So needless to say, people were unhappy. She wasn't supposed to keep the job in the first place. That was the first lie they told the community, was like, this person will not get the job. And that's the person they gave the job to. So Dan Foganoli, on his way out, he was like, if I'm going to do this one thing, let me do this one thing right, and right off into the sunset. So he made a motion to say, listen, we need to fire this lady. And obviously it was seconded and they voted, and she's now, seeking new employment.
Right.
So it's really sad because these are the people that we trust with our children's education. And do you see the caliber of people we're trusting? No wonder our kids are struggling in school.
Yeah.
It's about integrity. They don't even have it at the top.
Yeah. It's there's a lot of things that, you got your school board issue. Then, last night I was at a BREC, right? A regional meeting for BREC. And you have.
Wait, was that Broward and Palm Beach or just Palm Beach?
No, it was Palm Beach. This was Palm
Okay.
Beach. And like in Broward, in Palm Beach, there's people trying to overthrow the chairman.
Sure. Yeah.
In both places, right?
Yeah.
I mean, so for our listeners who aren't like, who don't know like the party politics bit, it's like Republican Executive Committee, so it's the REC. There's a name that was that has an implication. All right, so go ahead.
So I was there, basically as an ex-candidate, right? And just observe, because I'm not part of the Palm Beach BREC. I used to go there just to, speak in front of the rest of the Republicans and, all the stuff that we would do as candidates and get our support and, organize our ground game and stuff like that. So, it's funny because, they're not happy with the chairman. And I will say that Palm Beach Chairman Michael Barnett was excellent to me personally. I mean, he set me up with strategists, with a guy named Matt and Jody, and they worked with me, like vigorously worked with me to help me get a campaign going because I was late in the game. And if it wasn't for them, I personally, I don't think I would have, won Palm Beach and did so well in Broward like I did, because they established the game. But there's always people that want to overthrow, and it got so bad last night, right? And this is a problem, I think, inside the Republican Party now. It got so bad that one of the people that started arguing had to be removed. It got to almost a fist fight type of thing, right?
That's crazy.
And when you look at it, as a Republican Party, we're tearing apart our party from the inside out.
Yep.
Right. The BRECs, in my opinion, that where you have your main BREC, right, where you get all the members go to and the chairman speaks and they set out the vision, and then you have all these divisions, right, which are the regions, where they go and now they implement the vision with all the volunteers inside of each one of those, regions. And it's just getting to be, politics is just getting to be so
Mm-hmm.
divisive, and I don't think the Democrats move this way. I think they move in one direction, and they know how to tear the Republicans apart, and we just start self-imploding. And it pisses me off, because how are we going to win? If I was a new candidate, let's say, right?
Yeah.
Or a volunteer, and I went to that meeting, I would have walked down and said, I ain't running for nothing. And I definitely ain't volunteering nowhere.
No, seriously, I think like that's the reality it strike, right? And the Democrats are right about this. I mean, or I should say the mainstream media when they're talking about there's a whole like tearing apart, like, like our party
Monkeys
is
in the
actually
brown
imploding.
type of thing. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah,
Throw it
they're
down.
talking about the Republican Party imploding. And I could see that like now, right? There are like just by, like Mo mentioned, like Biden, I mean, sorry, Trump announcing his candidacy, like that is going to have serious, crazy stuff going on because now we're
I
all
like
going to be split between
Santos and Trump.
Trump and the Trump and the DeSantis camp, for example, right? We don't even know who else is running right now, but I mean, like we could see
Ridiculous.
what?
I've already seen it started. It's ridiculous. There's
Yeah, it is. I mean, it started a long time ago, and this is going to exacerbate it. I think it's just going to get worse. I can't
Well,
even
we don't even
imagine
know
what
what's
it's going
true
to
or
be like.
not true with the media, right? The media is going to bring out
right.
anything and everything to start fights inside the Republican Party for sure.
Oh yeah. Mm-hmm.
But
No, but
Yeah,
it's
but
already started. I mean,
we're
when
doing it on our own. Yeah.
like with
I have
them
yet to go into
sparring
it.
between Twitter and stuff, like it's not going to look good. It's
Yeah.
not gonna pan out well. So I
Right.
mean, they both have to chill out a little bit because then the people are picking sides. You could see that on Facebook. You can see that on all social media, and it's not looking good, right? I mean, if I were an independent and an independent voice counts like in a massive way, like
Yeah.
it's going to be tough because
Yeah.
if we can't get our stuff sorted out, I mean, at least there's unity on the other side for sure, right? They're
Yeah.
uniting for socialism here. But I mean, but our uniting for democracy in a democratic republic is not like gelling well together so much,
It's not.
which is
I
kind of
don't
scary.
know why.
And something that we were talking about last night in this meeting that came out, which is a good idea. Like personally, I don't like the mail-in ballots. I think you should have a real good excuse to do mail-in ballots.
Uh-huh.
Otherwise, you should not be mailing in ballots, right? But it's here to stay for a little while. Even if they're going to work on that, it's here for another election cycle.
Right.
Probably,
right?
yeah.
So the Republicans have to start getting smart and playing the game,
Right.
right? So we need to
No,
get our
actually,
people-
like the BREC chairman, right? Like actually called me personally and said to tell my voters, every single voter, to order a mail-in ballot regardless. So we have to
Exactly.
order a mail-in ballot regardless, because if by chance you can't make it up until the election day, you could still have someone, you could fill it out and have someone drop it off at the drop boxes.
Yep.
So
Exactly.
that is something that to make sure that all of your people vote, right? All the Republicans vote, because
And then that
sometimes
ballot is in your
stuff
hands.
gets in the way. What's that?
No,
That
exactly.
ballot is in your hands, not in somebody else's hands.
Exactly. Yeah. And I mean,
And also to ensure that your address is okay too, because a lot of things that we found out, like I know in my race, it didn't really impact it as much, but I know in I think one of the other candidates like Mercedes Morosi that was running in District 7, and I know with Jenna and some other candidates that people's addresses were wrong, and they weren't finding it out, or their district was wrong. They weren't finding it out unless they had a mail-in ballot. That was how we kind of noticed that was going on a larger scale. Like, wait a minute. People's addresses are wrong, their districts are wrong, the people they're voting for is wrong. And this was something they brought up on the news. So had there been no mail-in ballot request, no one would have actually caught on to this. And you would have found out probably the day of or, the week of early voting. And by then it's too late. So,
And now they changed it where you have to actually call in now and get your ballot. It's not automatically being sent to you now.
Yeah, I think Florida changed that, and that's a good thing. But still, there are people who, so I don't know if you guys I'm sure you guys knocked on doors. When we were canvassing for a campaign, a lot of people had moved away years ago.
Yeah.
Like I knocked on a door and they said, "Oh, I've been living here for 3 years." Like, wait a minute, the voter rolls were supposed to be cleaned out after 2020.
Yeah.
Right, but then they weren't because it was a census year.
Right.
So then, we have all these people who are getting stuff that are not supposed to get stuff. And if they had moved away, who knows who would have, put whatever it is there and whatever signatures they put down and whether those signatures were verified. It's scary. As good as our state is, I still believe that there's room for improvement.
Mm-hmm.
And you're right about that. I think like there should be one day election, just increase the precincts, right? Instead of hiring people for 2 full weeks to like man the polls, you increase the number of precincts, and that will make, that all that expense is already taken care of. If not, we have money to spare.
Yeah, there's some precincts in my area that barely had anybody go into them.
I know. I know. I have a precinct with 2 votes.
Right.
Like, damn.
Wow.
Can you believe like 2 weeks of being open and a day for election, like 15 days, 2 votes.
See, and the problem is that the Democrats will say, well, now you're suppressing the vote because you want to do it in one day. Right? I mean, that's the way it's been forever.
The only way.
So that means that means France and everybody else is, suppressing their voters too, right?
Yeah,
I mean, like
all garbage.
The only votes
one day.
Voting. That's the only votes.
Mail-in ballots are for anybody with a real purpose, to have military, or you had a flight or something already booked and you have a ticket in your hand and you can prove it with a something valid. I don't know, but. We got to get down to 1 day. I mean, 2 days at the most if they want to give it a couple of days because the amount of people in Florida.
Right.
But you see, the issue with Florida and like not having mail-in ballots are the seniors, right? We have a lot of seniors.
Why we can't bring polls to the places?
Well, I mean, some seniors are not. They can't move around. Like I mean, in the district that I was in, right, when we're knocking down on Miami Beach. You could see these people are bedridden. They are fully functional, but they just can't walk around. Well, I mean, they talk and even through a translator because they speak Spanish.
Well, if they get the ballot, right? I mean, I don't know, because then if you go with so many of that, you can almost be ballot harvesting ballots from these places.
Absolutely.
No,
I mean, there are these minority and also like, low Section 8 housing that have a whole building of people, right? And there are people who just go in there and like, oh, let me fill your ballot in for you. Uh-huh. And who knows what they filled out. Because these, the seniors who are, they either are not, they might not be able to read the ballot or could see it or anything, or even verify it before it's sent, right? And plus, like, there's referendums and, all kinds of things that they did, that they I mean, look, you and I don't know, people in our age, when we're looking at those referendums, we're like, screw it, yes. Can you imagine if like a senior who's like, 80 years old and they could hardly see, they're going to be reading that, even if there is a Spanish translation? They wouldn't be able to understand what the difference between them. I think like one of our for the next election, we should definitely break that down, like break it down for people and like really, really explain those referendums. But every city is different. But like these also bonds, right? Like the bonds that they're signing up for. I mean, like I think Miami Lakes passed a bond, Golden Beach passed a bond. What are the consequences of them? Do people really know, or is it like, okay, they're going to get a facility for voting yes, and what happens after that, right?
Yeah, I think they purposely skim over those types of things, because again, these are like I this election I took it seriously. Like I studied these candidates, the judges, the school board, state, all these people, and then you go and vote, and you're like, item 1 or What? Where was this in my study guide?
No, I totally get it.
They get laws passed and right, they come out with 10,000 page article.
Yeah,
and then you got to read it in 24 hours and vote on
it. Like, do you want to keep this judge? I'm like, I don't know. No one brought him up before.
I know. I thought we were done with the judges in the primary, but no, there's more.
Yeah, but there's more judges. Like, why weren't these judges out here campaigning, spending campaign money to like stay or not stay? Like, and again, it's it's one of those things
they're not allowed to answer questions. That's the problem. They have to be nonpartisan.
Well, I
So-
mean, but
No, they can meet candidates. They just can't raise money like outright. Like other people
but
have
they
to
can't
raise money
pick
for them.
sides. Because when I was in a few forums,
Yeah,
and
they
it
can't
was-
take sides. Yeah, you can't.
Right, so it's hard
Which is
to get a
okay.
real position on them. Because
I would
I
take
was in a
side.
forum in Miami.
The problem with judges is you have to go through all of their rulings, right?
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
That's another
And
mess.
see if they like and who's going to go through that? I mean, I don't
Nobody.
even I mean, one of my clients, like I do loans, right? So when they get a divorce, we need a divorce decree. And
Mhm.
any lawsuits or anything, we can't search for that. They have to go to the courthouse and copy them and send them over. So I mean, like, where do you get that? Like what are we have to do? We got to dig down a little bit deeper in terms of that. But I mean, these judges, like, who knows? What if they're letting
It's name
criminals go like
recognition.
they do in LA
Mhm.
or San Francisco?
I think it's either name recognition or they just pick one or they don't answer it at all. I don't. There's not a lot of good information out there, and people aren't going to research. Just let's face it.
No,
People
they're not,
research.
and they
So-
know. That,
Yeah, I
so
don't think they even know the difference between the judges either. I mean, not just that, but like circuit court
most people
judges,
even know that judges have like
appellate Georgia judges. You know what I mean? Like there's so many different levels, like the Supreme Court. I
right.
mean, oh gosh, like
People
I'm
probably
just
think when you go to court, the judge that's there is going to be there forever. Like they don't realize that he's elected or she's elected, and you can get rid of him. Otherwise, a lot of people would be like, "Hey, I don't like this judge. I'm going to remember this name. So come election time, you're going to get rid of this judge." So
I haven't
no,
seen
it's
the
totally
divorce
not
judge.
top of mind, right? Because they're not on the news, like they're not being grilled for stuff, and
Yeah.
like really they should. I mean, like I don't know, maybe we can invite them to our show and grill them.
Listen,
I
some
don't-
of these judges have some history on them too that aren't good.
oh yeah, no,
Mhm.
undoubtedly.
They're still making decisions on the bench for our lives. So
Listen,
Yes.
I'm pretty sure.
Yes.
yeah,
I've learned. Listen, there's one thing we learned during this intellectual cycle. I learned a lot of people behind the scenes. I'm like their personalities and everything, and I read people pretty well. And I'm like, yeah, you shouldn't be a judge. So, like you barely was.
Yeah, I mean, some people are really straight up, right? I mean, and I appreciate that. But the
Right.
thing is, like, even when they are straight up and honest and they behave ethically, but
Mhm.
the ruling, right? It's it's a difference between letting a criminal out. I mean, like, how many times have we heard of somebody who is like committed so many different crimes and have been let out on bail when they
Mhm.
should not have, right? Or I mean, have been completely exonerated and then come out and do other things, kill more
Right.
people or rape more people or do more things. And
Right.
that's where we need to look and see if they are following the law. But is that being enforced? I think we have enough laws. We just don't enforce them.
no, we don't force them anymore. I mean,
Right.
the woke world is,
Right?
Well,
It's like
Yeah.
everybody has to be equal. Jeez.
Yeah.
Yeah, if
okay?
you're enforcing laws, you're
Including if you committed crimes.
like, no, that's you being racist. Only a certain group of people. Being
Oh, the only person who could be racist here is Bill.
by their logic.
Because
Yeah.
he's white.
well, that's
Must-
racist against me. What are you talking about?
Well, it doesn't count. It doesn't count. We're minorities, so whatever we say is that we have
Whatever you say
immunity.
is fine.
We have
Exactly.
immunity. in this woke world we living in, we got immunity.
There you
We
go.
have immunity. Yeah.
Give you
No, but
amnesty.
actually, I think I'd be honorary white because we're not allowed in certain colleges because we flood them.
But you're a woman, so you,
Oh
Trump's-
yeah, okay, I had that going for me.
yeah, we don't want
haven't really-
we don't want to step on your rights.
Oh, to add more rights, I might have to identify as something else.
Well, you can add or
Do whatever
take
you want.
you can
Today.
add fat body parts or genders if you want to. Listen, get as woke as you wanna. That's all I'm saying.
Where are you from? Thailand?
Allegedly.
Yeah, Tyler. Allegedly.
Allegedly.
But I identify as Finnish.
That's finished.
Hashtag Harvard.
Oh no, wait. I rather identify as something. What else? What could I identify as? I don't know.
Label.
Anyway.
Identify as an dolphin if you want to. I'm telling you, there's no rules to being woke. You can be whatever you want.
I identify
Yeah.
as being Danish. Okay, you guys, we're totally going gibberish here, but and I
Listen,
And
started.
so back to what I was saying earlier though with these Rex and the Republican Party.
Yeah, let's go back to
We
that.
we need to get organized,
Hmm.
right? And we need to stop fighting from within. Huh?
Better said than done. Listen, every single Brett meeting I've ever gone to, the goal is to get organized. Right? That is the goal. Every single Brett meeting I've gone to, there's been a fight.
Well, I mean, I don't know how we're gonna win if we don't start getting our act together.
The reality of it is we're going to have to start studying what the Democrats do. And what they do is they just get together and they find one common thing and they ride that wave. We have so many different.
Well, here's the thing, though, right? I mean, in all honesty, the reason why the Democrats can bond together so easily because they don't have issues. They don't have issues that they stand for. What was this last election all about, right? Like democracy and abortion, right? That's it. Like they have nothing else. There's no crime. There's no inflation. Everything is fine.
There's no border problems.
There's
It's
no
all
border
great.
problems. What are you talking about, right? Like
Yeah.
that's why they don't have anything to fight about because nothing is an issue. There's
Right.
there's no rise in crime either.
Well,
You know,
that's
like
what I think needs to happen in these Brex is that they need to start listening to the younger generation because the tactic now that the Democratic Party is using is a tactic that the older generation of the Republicans are not used to. And I know one of the things that keeps happening in these Brett meetings I've gone to is they're saying, listen, we have new ideas that we want to implement. And the older generation is like, I don't understand it, so no. That's
Well,
also
to your point that there was a young kid that was in this meeting last
Mhm.
night, and he spoke up and he said, the problem I have with Breck is that there's older people in here that don't want to change to the new ways.
correct.
So you're not going to get the younger crowd in because you don't conform with the way the young people think.
And your ways don't work anymore. So it's like,
Right.
and that's it's like listening to your mom tell you, like, you know, I don't know. I'm Jamaican, right? So my mom tells me no matter how old I get, she can still whoop me.
You
All right?
identify as Jamaican or are you Jamaican?
I'm Jamaican. I identify as it as well, but I'm also from.
I'm just messing with you. But no, it's true.
Well,
See, the world now is younger.
Yes.
Right? You look on LinkedIn, you get pulled over by a cop, they look like your kids. Right?
Yeah.
And
Bill, you're just getting old.
It's true too. But the thing is, those are the leaders of tomorrow.
Correct.
Right? And we have to start bringing them in and listening to them.
Yep.
Because if we want them on our side, if we want them in our party, and we want them to excel, right? Because eventually they're going to have to excel because we're going to age out of the game at some point, right?
Right.
So,
but you guys, I mean, like, here's where I little differ with you a bit, Bill. Like, I think there are, when it comes to principles, right? I think there has to be a firm, you know what I mean? Like, kids can have a different way of doing, and I mean kids as in like, you know, the Gen Zs and stuff.
yeah.
So, I mean, not meaning like little kids, but the Gen Zs now that are in their 20s and 30s, and what I think is they need to have us point to what is the core structure and what are the core principles so that they can be grounded in that. And in terms of like the action to move it and how to maneuver, I mean, like, look, advertising now is targeted, you know, on social media, right? So, you know, I mean, like, it's different advertising from when we were kids, right? I mean, like, we all saw the same commercials when we were kids because they were all on TV.
The three TV stations we had.
Exactly, on the 3 TV stations.
Right.
And
but
now,
you
like,
give them a box, and they work inside the box their way.
Correct. Yeah. So basically, like, not even a box, but like a foundation, right? Like a good foundation to stand on. Because without that, then there's going to be a lot of wavering. There's going to be a lot of, like, you know, a lot of compromises, and this is where it's going, right? Like, you see politicians like compromising for certain things, like they're conservative, but and there's so many different things that they put in the space, and that actually crowds it out.
Yeah.
Like, I remember, okay, so I'm Buddhist. the way that Buddha teaches, his teaching. He said, never make it up in your own words, because when I generate that teaching, it is already thought out.
Mhm.
So if you interpret it and you reword it, it becomes something else.
Mhm.
So it's like, and he compares it to a war drum, right? A war, like the drum can get replaced, different parts of it. Eventually it becomes a completely new drum.
Yeah.
Right.
So when you're looking at that and we're talking about principles of like a democratic republic, right? Where we are a republic. There's no such, it's not a democracy, although we use system of democracy to, supplement our republic. But if they don't get the founding fathers, their words should not be changed. It could be interpreted and updated with the times, right?
Uh-huh.
Like, of course, we have different
Well,
laws. Like, yeah.
There should be, when you want to join this, and I haven't joined one, so I don't know how it really works from day one, but there should be an introduction to BREC, what we stand for, what our goals
Yeah.
are, what our immediate goals are, what our long-term vision is. And people should also be assigned jobs so that when you go there, you know you're going to work as a volunteer. You're not just showing
Right.
up there every month or whatever the meetings are, and then you just get your free meal or you listen to the rah-rah and you leave.
I think like I've never attended the Palm Beach one, but it's so hard to get talking time there.
I haven't either. I only been to Jody's region
Okay.
meeting, and she runs a great ship there. And that region is where I ran, right? She represented the region that my race was in.
Yeah.
And she did, and everybody in that region that's a volunteer were so in sync with each other. And we all backed each other. We walked with each other, handed out cards for each other. At the polls, we talked for each other. It was probably the most succinct thing that I've seen in the Republican Party. But Jody was the leader, right? And she gave the vision. And then other people bought into the vision, added to the vision. Everybody agreed on it. I mean, we had like party at the polls where we had tents set up, some people had barbecues. We had music playing, and our tent was alive, and people wanted to come over and see what was going on. And they grabbed our card. You look across the street at the Democrats, the hired person was sleeping underneath the umbrella, right? And over here, it's like, well, I want to be part of that. But that actually paid dividends because it brought people to talk to us.
Tent. Yeah.
Right.
That's something I've mentioned before to Republicans. Is like we need to have more events where we can invite people to.
We need camaraderie in this party.
100%.
We need to stop. We need to stop the bickering.
And even more so.
No, I agree. Oh my gosh, like you have to. I mean, I've been to a Miami-Dade Republican, executive committee meeting, and I remember it took me an hour to get to Doral. Right, I got there. It took an hour for them to start the meeting that was supposed to start at 7. It started at 8. They took roll call, which took like 20 minutes. And then they raised one issue. And then when somebody brought up a question, and I think they were asking a question about the Second Amendment, or I don't remember what it was, but it was something to do with like, one of our fundamental rights, our constitutional rights. And they said, it's not on the agenda. That's new business. We don't have a list for new business today. And then somebody goes, somebody says, I motion to adjourn. And then like immediately, like one of the board members said, I second. And that was over. The meeting was over in 30 minutes. And I was like, I drove an hour to listen to you do that. And then like when somebody had a concern, you couldn't even address it. It wasn't even time. It was half an hour. I cannot believe it. I was walking around thinking like, oh my God, what the hell is going on here?
Yeah.
Yeah. But anyway, okay.
So it's, as a party, we got to get better. That's what it really comes down to. If we want to start taking these elections, because the red wave happened in spurts. It didn't happen the way it should have happened in this country. It
was like a red circle.
Right. I mean, poor Arizona. Carrie Lake, she didn't get elected, right? I mean,
no.
Red Bay, like.
Is she contesting that, or is she letting it go?
I think it triggers an automatic recount.
because they're in 1%.
According to Arizona law, I think it triggers an automatic recount.
All right. Well,
But
hopefully-
like this disaster, I mean, like, I think the whole entire, management level of all the Republican Party people, they need to resign.
yeah, we need to
Just
quit.
be
family.
graceful about it, right? Like, how many elections have we lost already?
Yeah.
How many more do we have to lose before they realize they should get the F out?
Well, it's
Oh.
like anything else, right? It's a job. If you don't perform in your job, you're not there anymore.
Correct,
We
exactly.
let the same people do the same shit every cycle, and they lose the same way every cycle. And they just, like sport teams, they keep recycling the same people, right?
Mhm.
And they don't get,
Mhm.
and they look for different results out of the same people. It ain't happening.
That's exactly what happened. They treat it like it's like a franchise. Like they bought it, so they're gonna restructure
Run it down, run it to the ground.
Yeah, get as much as you can before you realize it's not gonna work. So let's find something else to run to the ground. But
Seriously, they will still continue to have their titles, right? Because whether a Republican wins an office or not, or whether legislation passes or not, their job is just to get Republicans together.
Right.
And that's it. That's the mission. There's nothing else.
Well, when I hear we're happy with a 45% win or a 30% win, when you need more
I
to
know.
actually win, to me, what is that? Are we here to win, or are we here to just we did better this time than last time? I mean, that's not how I play game. The game is the win.
Seriously. Oh, you failed? Oh, okay. So instead of a 0, you got 10 points.
Right.
But you still failed.
Right.
Like, no, this is like everybody gets a trophy kind of participation award, right?
Yeah.
So like, we're not here for participation awards. It's like our country on the line.
Yeah.
Basically, and then we've got to do a better job of like getting people elected and not just getting percentages improved. It's not a grade point average. It's not it's not the SAT scores. I'm not trying to get into Harvard or something. I'm trying to change a whole country. I'm trying to make sure that my kids have a bright future. And again, you are the governing body of being in charge of how we do it in this district, this county, this whatever.
Right.
So take it seriously.
It's a pass or fail, and that's it.
Candidates do. I mean,
and it's very clear.
It takes a lot for us to be candidates. So I mean, for them as a governing body, you should do all it takes. In the same way it takes everything out of us, it should take everything out of you.
Well, I understand what they do is they look at the district, right? If you're a D minus 11 or something, they say, it's not winnable. We're not going to care about that candidate.
Pretty much.
Instead, they should say, all right, well, it's a D this. We got to put this much more behind this candidate. Or we got to bet better candidates to get them in the race so they have a chance against that negative number. And then when if you're the one that's vetted out or you're in the race or you win the primary, whatever it is, they should get behind you and do everything they can to make you win. Instead of just you're not winnable.
The thing is, though, like, there is no vetting system inside of the candidacies.
There needs to be.
So, right? Exactly. I think so, too. And that's the problem. So okay, so I don't want to mention any names because I know them. But anyway, there are candidates that are running in every level of every level of office. And these people they just want to throw their name in there so that they can get name recognition.
Yeah.
And it's not because they wanted to run, because they really wanted to do something about it. And if they were elected, or invest their money in it, some people didn't have more than like $5,000, right? And they didn't even do any donations. They didn't raise money. They didn't do anything. And so people don't look at that as being serious because they have no skin in the game. So why should the party be put behind? I mean, I'm playing devil's advocate here, right? Because I wouldn't want to put in money into somebody who I might think is fantastic, but he doesn't want to, or he or she doesn't want to put any skin in the game. And they're just playing it, I mean, like, I have candidates who just went on vacation for the entire time of campaigning and still was able to win, a good number of votes. Is that considered good?
But let me tell you my thoughts on that. Number one, I was a new candidate, right?
Mm-hmm.
I got except for Palm Beach, and I came in late, and Palm Beach got a hold of me very late. I knew what I wanted to do when I got to office. I know I have a lot to offer from the business side, and I know I'm a very strong person, strong personality, and I'm going to go with what I'm going to go with, and I'm going to listen to the constituents, and we're going to make a decision. and we're not going
Mhm.
to play games. I'm very
Right.
serious and solid, right? I
Mhm.
didn't know how to fundraise. I didn't have any name recognition. I
Mhm.
didn't have a background in politics, but
Mhm.
that doesn't mean, that the party shouldn't interview you. The party should interview you at
Correct.
skill level. And if
Yep.
the
I
party
agree with
feels,
that.
right, there's no interview process. Anybody can announce this. That watch can announce if the watch puts money on it, right? I mean, there needs to be a process to get better. And this is on both sides. This isn't just on the Republican side. There
Right.
should
No,
be.
but you're mistaken. The Democrats actually line you up.
Okay.
So
So then,
you know what I mean? Like
on our
they will
side,
say, okay, here, you do this, and then like,
right,
if you are following the whole protocol,
right,
then when they hand pick you for a certain seat. If you notice like Hillary Castle, right, in 101,
right.
right? She ran against a guy named Guy Sia or something, but
I
like
see it. Yeah.
right. I don't know him. I haven't seen his face. I haven't seen
It's
any campaign
sorry.
documents or paper. I don't know what he is, what he does. And all I know is I see, this Hillary lady like out everywhere, right? And she has a good profile on it, right? She does insurance litigation. So, you know what I mean? Stuff like that, right?
Yeah.
With good knowledge. And nothing about him. I don't know about him. I don't know about what he stands for. I don't know if he's good or anything. So yeah.
One of the
It's But I think Democrats like line their people up really well. And
one of
then
the-
like, in for sure seats, they put people in like for example, 106, District 106. This guy was set up from like Jordan Leonard, right? He was set up as I mean, he started off in Bay Harbor. He was president of the League of Cities in Miami-Dade County. He was, so on and so forth. He built his profile up. He had done favors in office for, well, I wouldn't say favors, maybe it was a community, not clear, right? But he had done something for the firefighters. He had done something for the police officers. So when
Mhm.
it came time to get these endorsements, it was bam, bam, bam,
Yep.
right? And of course, being a Democrat, always endorsed by the media. So with all that said, like when he was running, there were 3 other Democrat candidates. All of these 3 people got districted out of his district.
Mhm.
So
Yeah.
he would be the only one. And
And
then when David
Smart.
Richardson, who was an incumbent, a state representative prior, dropped his name into the race. I don't know what discussions were made, but at the end of the day, David Richardson dropped out, and he would have won the seat like hands down easily.
Yeah.
Mhm.
So
But
they
it's
already have things
strategic,
lined
right?
up.
And that's where we got to get
Yes.
strategic. And if like with me, right? I jumped in there. You guys jumped in. Lynn? Have you run before? Or is this your first time?
First time.
Okay, Mo, same thing, right?
Right.
So if we were sat down and said, I think you should take these 2 years, and I want you. Here's the plan to get you to win an election. And
Mm.
we're going to get you in on the League of Cities, or we're going to get you in with this, this nonprofit,
Right.
this nonprofit. We're going to have you working with these people. Here are the introductions. This is
Mhm.
how the game plan forward. So when you go in, you're going to go in. You'll be able to get donations right away. You'll have name recognition, and you're going to have endorsements because these people already
Yes.
work with you. Then we'd have much better
I
system.
mean, to be
Right
honest,
now, it's just anybody can announce who, and then we have the Republicans have 10 people primarying each other
Mhm.
out of the damn race. Right? I mean, it's just ridiculous.
It is.
So we need to. This party
Hey.
needs to get its shit together. Is what I'm trying to say in a nice way.
But here's another thing. I mean, the reality of it all, right? And I hate to drag this on. And we said we're going to have a short show, but it's really not.
They've gotten used
But-
to it over time.
No, I just wanted to add one little bit, right? You also have to think about, like, let's say, okay, so Paul Renner is going to be the next Speaker of the House. Then after that, there's already a lineup for Danny Perez, right? Like when a candidate is going to be placed in that space to, he also wants to know that you're going to support him.
Yeah.
Because if not, then they're going to find someone to primary you.
Mhm.
And here's another thing, right? It's like they're cannibalizing themselves, right? Basically.
Yeah. Yeah.
Because if you're going to fall out of line, if you're independent, and here's the other thing, right? Like Bill, you can fund yourself all day long because you can. There are people who can do that, like my opponent, Fabian Basavic, right? When you can fund it, and if you don't fall in line, they'll find someone to primary you.
Right.
Right. And so if someone who's very strong, who's very good at what they do, but you're not in line with whatever it is that, politicians are in, it's a tough space to be in.
Yeah.
Because they're not going to let that happen. I mean, I've seen, if you look at candidates in Miami, and this had happened to them, like, at least 3 of them that I know of.
Uh-huh.
Yeah. Yeah. It's crazy.
So there's party politics involved as well. It's not about it's not necessarily for the country. It's not for the state. It's more like who's going to be our next new crony. Like,
that's sad. That's how we operate, because that's not how the Democrats operate. And what they do is not their crony's not a crony. It's still a crony, but what they do is they say this is the person we're going to support, and it's like Bill says. Finding nonprofits for them to be visible with. That's what they do. They find nonprofits. They do the work. They take the photos, the photo ops. They get the visibility so that when it's time for election season, these people look like they've already been working with the community. They fit whatever narrative the party wants to paint. On the other hand, we can't fit a narrative because we're too busy clawing at each other. And so the narrative now looks like these people can't get it together. They're always fighting amongst themselves. We're trying to primary so hard that the sound bites that you actually get are the ones that you don't want to be used. So the tactics that we use are actually counterproductive to what we're trying to do, especially in South Florida. And that's why we've had very limited success in South Florida. And as in comparison to the rest of the state. So, and this is something I said I've mentioned to Breck, I've mentioned to the local municipal Republican Party, the clubs and whatever, and they agree, but then they never do anything about it. They don't organize. We don't put together events. We don't go out to communities. We don't do beach cleanups. We don't do community outreaches. We don't connect with nonprofits, at least not visibly enough to where it actually conveys differently to the voters. So it's we got an uphill battle to climb as far as conservatives, because at the end of the day, we are who are actually helping these people. But the images of who's helping those people are the Democrats, because I've gotten the awards from them. I've taken the photos with them. They've shown up at my programs. Like I said, I work in these nonprofit programs for so many years. They're showing up and taking photos and shaking hands and not kissing babies, because I work with older kids, but pretty much
that's only Biden. He's the one kissing all the babies.
No, he's sniffing. He's sniffing.
But it worked. He's sniffing those babies, and it got him in the White House. So,
yeah, but now that I recognize this problem in there, they're going to hear it from me. I'm not one of these people that are going to sit here and watch this party play implode.
More than just hearing it from you.
I mean, it might have to get to that point before it gets revived, right?
Well,
because
it's
now
there.
you have. I mean, yeah, if they're fist fighting, but I mean, it hasn't been to the point where nobody shows up for the meetings. Like that would be like the ultimate. They would be the ultimate, right?
You should do. I mean, use your advantage and say, you know what? I lost Broward. I won Palm Beach. Use the momentum in Palm Beach. Carry that over in the future, but use this as an example to say, you know what, I need to be more visible in this community in Broward. Your name could.
I have a meeting actually on Saturday.
Okay.
With Broward.
With who? Oh, okay, cool.
They want to talk to me about strategy.
Okay.
So and recruitment and all that stuff from my experience, and
right.
Wait, are you a Breck member?
No.
Do you want to be?
No.
No. And listen, I don't like the chairman in Broward County. The chair I think he's a good guy. I think the executive director there, she's young, she gets it. She deals with a lot. And but again, there's so much politics within the group of people that's in charge of the politics.
But you guys hear me out. Hear me out. Okay, so there are more people like you and I. And if you allow them to crowd the room, then they vote and do things the way that they want to do it. Right? I mean, like, because that's what happened. Like when I attended BREC, right? Like salaries of this and that. Like, okay, at the end of the day, like $200,000, $20,000 go to the candidates, and there were like 10 candidates, right? So each basically gets $2,000. So when you're looking at that, like if you can vote and object to it, and you can get a majority to crowd them out, or even when you're electing a chairperson, like. I mean, this is what makes a difference, because they are voted in. And usually it's all cronyism, right? Like the same thing, like everybody votes for their friend. And if we don't bring in new voices, new faces, and new voters, then it's just going to end up the same way.
See, I haven't seen a BREC meeting run. And, I know Tom Powers for years. I've never seen his organization run, so I can't really say anything good or bad about him. I mean, I'm friends. So he's, I think I should have got more money out of Broward. I will say that, more support, but I don't know all the things he's doing, and all the problems he's having with the BREC itself. That's from doing what he's doing.
No, I mean, they're definitely. I think Broward has more problems than Palm Beach does. Apparently, it sounds like Jody has things under control. So,
well, Jody has.
I mean, her leadership, right?
Yeah, her region, she's got under control. But the BREC.
Oh, so she's like a committee member, not the chairperson.
Yeah.
Okay, got it.
Yeah, Michael Barnett's the chair, and he's under fire right now. And they're trying. That's what his whole fight came from. And for me, he did an excellent job. I have nothing. I only have kudos for that guy. But
I know him. I've seen him. I only have kudos for him too. And Tom, I worked with you, Tom, this last election. Kudos for him too.
Yeah, he gave me more money in Broward. I mean, and he put people on my campaign, Jody and Matt, to help me go. But
my issue with the Republican Executive Committee is that you say that the same thing that you said, Lynn, is that $200,000 in Miami-Dade. They raised $250,000 in Broward. I don't know what they did in Palm Beach, but it's probably $200 and something thousand. And you're looking at $750,000 right there. Look at what the Broward parties are doing as far as the Democrats and the Miami-Dade Democrats and the West Palm. They're raising millions of dollars and pumping all of that money into their candidates. There's a big issue.
Well, I mean, it's all under FTX though, right?
Well, another thing that I think the BREC's a problem that I see with this, we're more worried about DeSantis and Rubio than we are with the local candidates.
100%.
Right? And DeSantis and Rubio have the bank to put their own teams together to do what they're doing. Not that we shouldn't support them when we're out, because we're all one party.
Right.
But the main support, the money funnels back up. It's the local elections are the most important, and they're getting the least amount of the, until.
Well, I mean, this is what I said. This is what I said. I don't know who I said this to. Was it last time we had a call, or had a show? But like, whether you win or not, they already have the majority.
Yeah.
Why is it important to add another person, right? Why is it important to add another person in 106? Like, it's not, right? So if it's not self-funded, it's not fully like available, then you know what? We're just going to let it go. But I mean, with that all aside, like I told you, Fabian Basabe got about 40 grand from the Republican Party, both state and local. So it's not a small feat that he's gotten, right? Because they really saw that there was a chance to flip that seat. Now, of course, they could take it if it's easy, but if it's not easy, right? Like they didn't touch 106, 107. 107 is definitely, it's a protected district, right? Protected like Black district. So they didn't touch it. It didn't invest. Not one candidate ran. But remember that these Republican executive committees, their job is to source and find a candidate for every single seat, right? If you remember, like Bill, our consultant, tried to spread us all out, right? Just so that there is somebody in every seat so that they can look good and make sure that like every seat is covered. We're running for every seat, right? And whether that candidate is good or not, or supported or not, or knows what the hell they're doing, it doesn't matter. Because guess what? We already have the majority. If we have the super majority, yay. But if not, it doesn't matter. So I mean, now that we're looking at this way, and we're looking at it as a business venture, you can see why it's not worth it for them to actually invest.
Right.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I mean, like, it's give and take, and it really does. That's why I'm kind of looking back at the municipalities versus going to the state, because when we're at the state level, we're kind of like at the bottom of the
Yep.
at the bottom of the barrel there. I mean, they don't really, it's like the last thing that they pay attention to, like very low priority,
Yep.
because we already have the majority. Everything's kind of set, and certain cities have the people that they want, and some Democrats have leaders to represent them. Okay, we're good. It's comfortable, and we'll leave it at that. So that's why I'm looking more at like municipalities, because this is where the massive corruption happens, right? The mudslinging, popularity contests, and all that, like,
Yeah.
including county.
Yeah, well, I mean, I've seen it this past election. I was like, man, this still one of the more steamy campaigns I saw was a municipal one.
Well, you know who this hurts the most? It hurts the voters.
Yep, 100%.
Yep.
Right, and it hurts the people that put the R behind their name.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
The belief that we're going to be going after it and making it happen. That's where it
Exactly.
hurts the most. And then we lose them.
Yeah, they've pretty much given up to the point where they don't show up to vote.
Right.
I mean, the voter turnout in Broward County, overall turnout was what, 47%?
It was low. Yeah.
Yeah, it was
No,
47.
everything is just being manipulated to death, right? Like,
Yeah.
everything is being manipulated, and everything is based on money. Everything is based on special interest. And like, it's not a natural thing where like we see someone in the community we really like, and we just kind of go, oh, look, like that person should run, right? Like Bill Reichert should run for Senate. Like, we need you, your skills, this and that, right? Like, it's not that anymore.
Nope.
Yep, it's like handpicked. But anyway,
Yep.
We've got 2 more minutes, as Bill reminded us.
Well, we got a reminder.
We got a reminder.
You got the little yellow string on your finger.
So yeah, 2 more minutes. I mean, to wrap it up. Listen,
No, I mean, we could. I mean, this election can be broken down in like some more. We could talk about this some more on our next show.
no, absolutely. That was just about to
Yeah.
wrap it up. I mean, we're just a week outside of election day, and there's like so much that's happened, and that's so much that also the door's been opened to further let things fly through. So I'm waiting to see what happens this week, because obviously there was an announcement yesterday that I know that's going to trickle down from the state level, and between social media and everything else, we're going to see some fireworks. So we'll have some stuff to talk about between now and the next show. So for sure.
Yeah.
For sure.
Oh, definitely. There's tons. I mean, we haven't talked about the FTX and all that other scandals and all the upsides.
I think a scandalous vote, like, I don't want to like voice my opinion, at least not now, because I don't think it's safe. But I really want to know what's going to happen. Like, do I have to choose DeSantis or Trump? Like, why are they putting us in this compromising situation? So, and you're welcome, Farida. You're welcome.
Yes, thank you, Farida, for being on.
You know, we have to learn how to play the media, because the media is playing us.
100%.
Right? And they're destroying our party from within.
Mm-hmm.
Also, they're another problem.
And we will talk about it on the next show.
We will. We got a lot to talk about.
I know, right? Yeah. So let's talk about the media on the next show, and we'll see you later.
Oh, we leaving already? I'm going to miss y'all until next time.
Okay. Thank you for being on, and we'll see you next time. Bye.
Florida and South Florida.
Peace out.
All right.